Come along with me today as we take care of our family's leather shoes. I've now had these shoes for 4 years and they just get nicer as the time goes on. Here is the boot butter and saddle soap that we've been using now for about 3 years. So I use warm water on a old cloth. Here I'm using a flannel cloth that I have, but you can use any kind of nice soft cloth, and go ahead and rub it thoroughly into the shoes to get out any dirt and grime that may have been built up on the shoes. Before buying this pair of shoes, I was going through 2 to 3 pairs of shoes a year, and when I found these, I thought, wow, this is really great. Maybe I can have a pair of shoes for longer, but I had no idea that it would be something that I'd have 4 years later. So now that I'm almost done finishing up these shoes with saddle soaping them, I'm going to move on to the next pair. Now this pair of shoes we have had for 4 years, and this is the third child who is wearing these shoes. They are their favorite. They call them their pretty shoes. Now we also decided to buy our children leather shoes because they were also going through shoes quickly, and we wanted to find a more sustainable source for shoes that they would be able to wear them for longer than a few months at a time. My shoes, along with the children's shoes, are all from a company called Adalisa & Co. So here we're moving on to the next pair of shoes. I have found that the older my children are, the more upkeep the shoes can take, because they're out and running through mud puddles and in the water, and all of those things really dry out the leather. So they need a really good clean basically every week, and we do this usually before church so that the shoes look nice for being out and about. It amazes me too how these shoes have held up for 3 or 4 children abusing them, getting them wet, running them through the mud. So here you can see the difference that even just having saddle soap does for the leather. So now that we have them all saddle soaped, we're going to go back and use the boot butter on them. Now I found that this boot butter works really well for moisturizing the leather, but it also helps to prevent the water from getting in as fast. So we add beeswax into our boot butter, and the reason for this is that it kind of creates a water barrier around the leather to help keep the moisture of the oils into the leather and keep the moisture of water or dirt or whatever you're walking around in out. So it does make it so that you can have more wears out of a shoe than otherwise possible. So you can see here I have saddle soaped one of the shoes in this pair, and now I'm going to oil it. And this gives you a good comparison as to how you can take a really dried out boot, one that looks like it's had better days, and really bring it back to life. And this is the coolest thing about leather, is the ability to bring its life back into it by taking care of it and oiling it and conditioning it. And it can also really help expand the life of your leather. The children had recently been out and walking through mud, and so that's why the one boot looks so dried up out compared to the other. But this shows you the amazing ability of conditioning your boots can really do for your leather. boots. Now we're going to move on to my husband's leather boots. And as you can see, these ones have not been through the mud and they're not dried out. And so the difference that the boot butter and soaping them doesn't show up as dramatically as in my children's shoes. Now, I've also learned through the past few years, as we've added other leather things into our household, like leather mitts for the children, that using the boot butter on the outside of them has really helped with waterproofing their mitts, so that when they do go outside and get them all full of snow, that they aren't coming in with wet, soaking hands. Thanks for coming along and watching as I did our family's boots. If you're interested in the boot butter or the saddle soap, you can go ahead and go to our website, stbedefarm.com, and pick up your own bundle.